and then admit the participants. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Brianne Lott, and I'm going to be moderating today's session. I'm a Global Career Initiatives Coordinator at Career and Professional Development Services. And with me today are two of my colleagues, Career and Industry Specialists Jenna Figueroa and Chelsea Johnson. They're going to be facilitating this session about searching for jobs and internships in the U.S. And this is a part of our International Student Career Development Summer Series. So we're really excited to be offering 23 different sessions this week about all sorts of different topics around career and professional development, with a special focus on international students and alumni. So really glad to have you here with us today. Before we jump into the presentation, I'm just going to cover a few housekeeping items. So this session is being recorded, and I will make a link to the recording available to all participants sometime early next week. We do have you on mute. You probably noticed that already as you entered the meeting room. All participants are muted, and we're going to keep you muted during the presentation, but we would love to see your questions and comments come through in the chat function. So please feel free to send those along throughout the entire presentation. And we are leaving time at the end of the presentation today for question and answer. So we'll come back to your questions a little bit later on. And without further ado, I will hand it over to my colleagues, Jenna and Chelsea.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Brianne. I'm so excited to have you all join us this afternoon to talk about job searching. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you. All right, and can I just get a thumbs up from Chelsea if you can see this? Perfect, thanks, Chelsea. All right, so like I mentioned, we're gonna talk about how to search for jobs and internships in the US. So just some brief introductions. I'll go ahead and let Chelsea introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea Johnson and I am a career and industry specialist within the Career and Professional Development Services. And so basically I am on the career readiness team. I help students and alumni prepare for their careers, and the industries that I tend to focus on are the education, career interest community or industry, as well as communications and media.
Awesome, thank you, Chelsea. And my name again is Jenna Figueroa. I'm also a career and industry specialist. My role is very similar to Chelsea's, but the career interest communities that I really focus on are business and then public, social, and human services. So those are kind of my areas of expertise. A little bit about us before we dive into this presentation. So an overview of what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk through the powerful introduction, 30-second commercial, elevator pitch. You might have heard it be called any of those things. We'll also talk about some of the challenges of job and internship searching, effective versus ineffective strategies and what those best practices are, and then planning it out. What can you be doing to be productive with your job search and strategic in how you are applying to opportunities? So first, we'll go ahead and use the chat feature if you are able, and I would love to know how many of you have seen these career competencies before, or if this is new to you. I'll give you all just a minute. New to you, new. Great, okay, so it's new to all of you so far. That's great to know, thank you. So these competencies, I always like to gauge kind of what do people know about these? These are the competencies as determined by NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. So these are the 8 competencies that employers, graduate schools, and professional schools are always looking for in the candidates that they hire or admit into their programs. So skills like problem solving and critical thinking, written and verbal communication, leadership, digital technology, career management, teamwork and collaboration, professionalism and work ethic, and then global and intercultural fluency. These are all of the skills that really help to make you a well-rounded professional. And that employers want to see when they're hiring you for opportunities. So you want to keep these in mind as you are searching for opportunities, where your strengths are and where you maybe have areas to improve. So I would always say that digital technology is always an area that I'm improving in, and it's definitely a competency that I have grown a lot in over the last couple of months, doing everything digitally practically. And so I would really encourage you all to take some time of where are my strengths in these competencies and where do I have room to grow? And how can I showcase my strengths in my application materials as I am applying for opportunities? If leadership is something that you're really strong in, you want to make sure that you're showcasing that in your resume and in your cover letter, that you're strong in leadership. So pay attention to these things, take time to reflect on where your strengths are, and that will be really helpful moving forward. So moving into your powerful introduction, this is also called an elevator pitch, a 30-second commercial. This is basically how you introduce yourself to a potential employer. So you want to identify the desired outcome of your introduction and what makes you unique. So I hear a lot of students and alumni say, oh, I'm a hard worker. That's great, but that doesn't make you unique. A lot of people say that they're hardworking, right? And so this is your opportunity to focus on experiences you have or competencies, characteristics you have that you're really strong in, that really provide you with a unique skill set that would be beneficial to an opportunity. After you have thought through maybe what you want to say to an employer by thinking of that outcome and what makes you unique, write it down. Because sometimes when we are meeting with employers, it can be really nerve-wracking and we can forget what we wanted to say. And so if you write it down and practicing your powerful introduction is going to come much more easily and much more naturally. You're less likely to forget what it is you were hoping to say to the employer. And the goal is to be able to say it out loud without having to look at your notes. So you want to feel so comfortable talking about your experiences, talking about what your goal is, what you're hoping to learn from this person, what you're hoping to gain from this person, that you don't even have to look at notes to state it. And so this is often easiest when you are meeting someone in person at a career event, but this can also be helpful even through Zoom meetings like this, just as a quick introduction. So now we'll move into effective search strategies. So some things that you want to keep in mind as you are job and internship searching is 1, research, research, research. We cannot say this enough. You want to make sure that you are very knowledgeable on the opportunity that you are applying for. I hear a lot of times from students and alumni that they are sending out dozens of applications and they're not tailored or customized to the opportunity they're applying for. They haven't done their research to know what the company is interested in, what the company is passionate about, what is the mission, what is the driving factor, what are they looking for in a candidate. You want to know all of those things about an opportunity as you are applying. 1, because it shows that you've done your research, it shows that you have a genuine interest in the position, but it'll also help you determine if you're a good fit for that opportunity as well. So make sure you do your research for every opportunity you have an interest in applying to. You also want to make sure to read the full job posting. This might go without saying, but there are a lot of details in a job posting, and you want to make sure that you are reading all of them and collecting all of those qualifications, minimum qualifications, desired qualifications, making sure that you're a good candidate for the opportunity and you have the skills and experiences preferred for that opportunity. You'll also want to consider, what do your competencies match? So when we think back to those career competencies, thinking about which competencies that I have, how do they relate to this position? So if we go back to the example of leadership, maybe I'm really skilled in leadership. Okay, maybe the job that I'm applying for is going to require me to oversee a team or oversee a project or delegate. All of those tasks are a form of leadership. And so that might be a good fit for me. And that might be a great opportunity for me to show where I've been a strong leader in my application materials. So pay attention to what they're looking for. It could be communication if you're going to be writing a lot of reports. It could be critical thinking if you're going to be analyzing a lot of materials. So connect the dots between, or draw connections between the career competencies and what they're looking for in that position description. It can also be helpful to conduct informational interviews. So informational interviews, if you're not sure what those are, it's basically interviewing someone just for information gathering purposes. So you're not interviewing someone to get a job, to get an internship, anything like that. It is purely just to learn more about an opportunity. So maybe I'm interested in being a teacher. I could conduct an informational interview with a teacher to ask them about their job. What advice would you have for someone who wants to be a teacher? What do you wish that you had known prior to starting your career as a teacher? What skills are really helpful in entering this profession? So thinking through questions that you would want to know from a professional in that field, this can be a great way to see if an opportunity is going to be a good fit for you, if it aligns with your values, if it aligns with your skill set. And it's also just a great opportunity to network and to build your relationships with people in the field. Again, you want to make sure that that company is a good fit. I know I've mentioned this a couple times already, but you want to make sure that you're working in an environment that is supportive to you too. You don't just want to take any job because they're offering you a job. You want to make sure that it's a job that is going to grow you, develop you, and be a supportive environment for you to work in. So keep that in mind as well, and think about questions you could ask to gauge if an opportunity will be a good fit for you. And then lastly, getting out from behind a computer. So this is obviously something that we'll have to keep into consideration right now, given everything is digital. But know that you can still be networking behind a computer. The whole idea behind getting out from behind a computer is just to network, to start talking to people, build your connections. And even if you are doing everything virtually right now, you can still be networking with people via LinkedIn, via the ASU Mentor Network, by attending events like this. Those are all great opportunities to be building your network and building relationships in your industry of interest. So now some ineffective search strategies. We always like to cover these because these are the strategies that we see students doing a lot. I think Chelsea and I could both agree that these are ineffective search strategies. These are not going to help you in the long run as far as trying to secure an internship or a job opportunity. So like I mentioned before, mass applications. And this basically means you're sending out 50 to 100, dozens of applications at one time. Submitting a job application takes time. If it's not taking you more than 10 minutes, you're probably not customizing it as well as you should be. Employers want to see that you have put effort into their application and you have tailored it to their specific opportunity. They don't want broad resumes and cover letters. They don't want generic resumes and cover letters. They want it to be specific to their organization, their job description, and your experiences. So that falls in line with number 2. Avoid sending out general resumes. You want to make sure that you're tailoring your resume to the opportunity too. And I know a question that we often get is, how do I tailor my resume? You can be tailoring your resume through the keywords that you use. You can be tailoring your resume through how you organize your experiences. If I'm applying for a financial advisor position, I'm going to want to draw attention to different experiences than if I were applying for a position as a waitress at a restaurant. One focuses more on my analytical abilities and one focuses more on my ability to work with people, right? And so I would want to highlight different experiences, maybe draw attention to different skill sets for those experiences. So that's how you can be tailoring your resume, is really prioritizing which of these experiences would this employer for this opportunity want to see first. You want to make sure to submit a cover letter as well. This is one of the biggest mistakes we see too. The worst case of submitting a cover letter is just that it doesn't get read. But the best case scenario of submitting a cover letter is it's what secures you the interview. And a cover letter allows you to do a little bit of a deeper look into your experiences, into your accomplishments, that a resume doesn't necessarily provide. So if you're applying for an opportunity, you definitely want to be submitting a cover letter. And our office can help you with that if you're unsure of how to write a cover letter too. You also want to make sure to follow up. So follow up means reaching out to an employer or the human resources department after you submit an application, or really any time throughout the job application process. It could be after an interview. You want to make sure to follow up, to express your interest for an opportunity, to thank the interviewer for their time and consideration if it's after an interview. You want to make sure that you're not just submitting that application and then forgetting about it. You want to make sure to follow up with someone after the closing date for that application has passed. And then you also want to be open-minded with the opportunities that you pursue. Avoid limiting yourself to certain fields, because this can be extremely narrow in your search and keep you from securing an opportunity. So if you really want a leadership role, think outside of maybe your preferred industry of where you could gain that leadership experience. You know, maybe I'm really interested in teaching, but I'm not going to get a job in K-12 right now. Maybe I could look at higher education, or maybe I could look at adult and continuing education. I could look at other fields to try and obtain a teaching position. So think about where your skills could be transferable into other industries as well. Now we'll discuss some challenges of job searching. Oftentimes, some of the challenges are knowing how to start. So one thing that you want to really reflect on as you start job searching is being able to articulate what you look for, or what you're looking for in an opportunity. You want to know what your competencies are, what your strengths are, where you have room to grow, and the types of experiences that you're really hoping to gain throughout the process. You want to be aware of experience, again, personality match, knowing where to start, and understanding the difference between job descriptions and job titles. So also understanding that when you look for jobs on Handshake, LinkedIn, Indeed, oftentimes you're going to find that a job title is very different from the job description. Maybe you want to do more analytical work. You're not necessarily going to find analyst in that job title. So you have to be creative with your keyword searches too, in finding opportunities that will be a good fit for you. So when you are using keyword searches, use keywords as they relate to your field or as they relate to what you're doing. It could be a job title, but it could also be a technical skill or an employer or just a general word that's popular in your industry. And that's going to populate opportunities that have that word not only in the job title, but also in those job descriptions, and will hopefully give you a better fit for what you're looking for in opportunities. You also want to reflect on your personality. What are you looking for? What are your work values? What would be really important for you to have in a work environment to feel supported and feel like you could grow in that opportunity? So definitely take some time to have that self-reflection, to think about what you're looking for in an opportunity, what your first step is going to be in searching for an opportunity, and what you really value in those work environments. And now I'm going to pass it over to Chelsea, who's going to talk about some common job searching websites.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. All right. Are you able to see that, Jenna? Great, thanks. So yeah, we're just going to go over some common job search websites and places you can go for searching for those jobs specifically within the US. Now, the common one that we usually suggest is Handshake. Handshake is exceptionally good for college students and also recent graduates, because many of those opportunities listed there are tailored towards that kind of population of people. I do want to share a couple of features that are fairly new to Handshake that could particularly help international students. So I'm going to go to the link here to take a look at Handshake. View as if I were a student here. Now, when you do go into that Jobs tab within Handshake, I'd like you to note that there are many ways that you can filter. We won't go into each of them, But I do want you to notice that when you do click on that filters button, as you scroll down, there is a work authorization category. And you can select employers that either will sponsor or don't require U.S. work visas or accept OPT, CPT. You can select one or both of those. And it'll filter down different employers and opportunities based on that. So that's something that you can definitely look into. Some great opportunities within there. Some of those employers who have selected that, we as an office have actually talked to as well, and they've shared that that is true, that they, because they select that they do understand what that means, and that they accept those kind of stipulations there. One other thing that I always like to suggest to people when you are searching for opportunities, one nice thing with Handshake is that you're able to search by employers. So let's say you've searched for specific jobs, but now you really want to take a look at different employers. There's ways that you can filter down those employers. So you can search by keywords and phrases, location. You can even search by industry. So you're interested in a particular industry, try that out and go to that employer. So for example, if we take a look at Express Scripts here, each employer on Handshake has a profile. So you can read more about them. You can also get in touch with people who have worked there so that you can understand things like, what is the culture like at this company? And you can ask them questions about it as well. Reviews are also placed on there. Also, if you do submit an application and are invited to an interview, people can go in and list their experience with their interviews there. So that sometimes they'll even provide questions that they were asked in the interview. One last thing I want to make sure to point out. Within each profile for each employer on Handshake, their website will be listed, as well as usually there is an email address. Now this one listed here is obviously their recruiting department's email, but sometimes it's an actual person's email address, and that is a specific recruiter for that company. So be aware of those opportunities as well. Now, the last thing that I want to mention before I get out of Handshake are the events. Now, we talk about applying, when you're in the job search process, we talk about high touch over high tech. And what we mean by that is getting in touch with people, having that face-to-face interaction, and that can be done virtually, rather than only applying for these positions online and just letting it be like that. Now, you do need to make those connections with different people. And even through COVID-19, we've had employers still reach out to us and say, hey, we're still interested in hiring. We want to hire students at ASU and alumni. So please help us to get in front of them. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll refer them to either attend or be a participant in a large event like a fair, or we'll encourage them to put on their own smaller event, whether that be a webinar or info session. So I encourage everyone who is searching for jobs at the moment to go into this events tab every so often and just see what types of employers are attending or hosting certain events. So this first event search here, this tab, shows those smaller events like webinars and info sessions. And then the fair search is where we have listed our larger events like recruiting events and career fairs. So those are there for you as well. Now, within here, we also talk a lot about LinkedIn. I won't spend a whole lot of time in LinkedIn, but I just want to reiterate that there is a job board within LinkedIn, and it is a good idea to go on and take a look at it. There are different ways that you can filter down as well. So let's say I'm interested in marketing. When I do that search, please note that there are different filters listed at the top, and there's experience level as well. So take a look at all of the different filters that there are available to you, but this is a great place that you can also go to search for opportunities. Indeed.com is another one that we suggest using as well. Industry-specific websites. This is something that I always want to make sure people know about. Employers can be pretty good about posting their open positions on places like Handshake and LinkedIn, but sometimes they're not the best about that. But one place you can always bet that they're very consistent and accurate in what they're posting is on their own industry-specific website. So as you look at these opportunities listed on Handshake or LinkedIn, please always make it a point to go and visit there's that company specific website, because you may find more information, more just in the job description. You may also find other opportunities that somehow weren't posted on Handshake. One last thing I want to mention is InnerStride. Now, there is another webinar going on that explains InnerStride more, but ultimately it is a platform where you can go to learn about different companies that have filed for H-1B visa petitions in the past. So those who have sponsored based on company, and then you can even go dive deeper into those and see which type of positions they've sponsored visas for. So that is something that is listed on our website, the link to InnerStride. But that's just something else that is another place to go looking for job opportunities, and at least being aware of what companies in the past have been open to sponsoring visas. So like I mentioned before, attending an event is a fantastic way to just get to know different recruiters and have that high touch over high tech. So these are just a list of different events that we offer. So again, visiting that tab on Handshake, the events tab, will help you to know all that's happening. Now, this has been mentioned a little before, but networking is extremely important. 85% of jobs are filled through networking and referrals. So be aware that that is something that should always be a part of your job search process. And there are some resources and tools that we have to help you with that, especially in a virtual sense. So we do have something called the ASU Mentor Network. So this is the link to that. As an ASU student and alum, you do already have an account. You just have to activate it by logging on with your ASU login. Once you're in there, it's basically a platform where you can go to connect with people, mentors. Most of the mentors on that site are ASU alumni, as well as other working professionals. And it's just a place for you to go to get career advice and hold those informational interviews, make connections with people in your field. That could later down the road, as you maintain a relationship, could serve as referrals for you. Also, LinkedIn is a great place, obviously, for networking, utilizing the LinkedIn alumni tool. So if you are interested in attending, there is also a webinar that will be going in more depth within LinkedIn and how to network with it. So those are some opportunities for you to do that. To kind of wrap things up here, we definitely want to reiterate this here. So making the most out of your job search. So it can be a lot, especially if you're applying to multiple different positions in a certain amount of time. It is good to plan it out. So having a goal within your mind, a reasonable goal. So we usually suggest anywhere from 2 to 3 job applications every 2 days or so. Again, we don't suggest submitting 10 to 20 job applications each week, because you should be tailoring those application materials and really focusing in and making yourself stand out, personalizing like how we put here. So plan it out, how much you're going to do in order to stay on track and not feel too overwhelmed. And staying organized is also helpful. So a lot of people like to use Excel spreadsheets where they can organize some of their thoughts. A site that I really like is called themuse.com, and they even have provided something like this, my job search tracker, where you can list in Excel spreadsheet the companies you've applied for, listing those postings, what you've done before the interview, and even into the interviews. It's very in-depth. Your Excel spreadsheet doesn't have to look like this, but it is very helpful for you to stay organized, because again, there's different parts to the application process. Obviously you'll be applying, but then within a couple weeks, say you don't hear anything, then you would send that follow-up email. So it just helps you to organize and know, okay, which company, which posting did I send that follow-up to? Which one have I done the research for? It's very helpful in that way. And that's also part of managing and tracking as well. So, having this kind of spreadsheet or having a folder on your desktop where you can keep all of your application materials for each application that you've submitted, that's another way to stay organized and to just help you be more efficient in this whole process. Now, we do want to allow some time for questions to be asked, but this is something we always like to do at the end of the presentation, is just ask you to think, what is one thing that you can do in the next 24 hours to help put you on the path to success? I'm sorry, I think it's cutting it off there, but we definitely encourage you to think in your mind, what is one thing that I can do just within the next day? Whether that's, I'm going to take a look at mentorship or ASU Mentor Network, or I'm going to hop onto Handshake and I'm going to search using some different filters and come up with 5 different job postings that I'm interested in. Or I'm going to set up an appointment to have my resume looked at. Anything that could help you getting you further on your path. Now, this is our information here, but what we'll do is we'll just take some time for questions. So I know that some people have submitted some in the chat box, but we'll be open to taking those.
Thank you, Jenna and Chelsea. We did have a couple of questions that have come in on the chat function so far. So one of the questions was actually asking, if no name is mentioned in a job posting, how can you follow up with that position?
Sorry, yeah, making sure that I was on. Yeah, so that can be difficult if there is not a name provided. Keep in mind that, you know, if you're hoping to find a recruiter's name, something like that, again, you can use that Handshake profile to see if that has their recruiting department's email address on there. But definitely make sure to go to that organization's website and look at their human resources department as well, and try to find some contact information that way, because that's kind of all the same department, and those are the people who would be able to help you out more than anyone else.
Awesome, thank you. Another question that just came in, what would be an ideal length for a cover letter, and what should be included in that document?
I can take this one. So cover letter, typically that's going to be 1 page, 1 full page. You don't want to exceed that 1 page. Cover letters, I say, can be easy and tricky at the same time. They can be tricky because you really have to be selling yourself, and I know that makes some people uncomfortable, but they can be easy because they're pretty formulaic. So with a cover letter, in that first paragraph, you want to mention 3 things: the position that you're applying for, how you found out about that position, and a sentence or 2 about why you're interested in that opportunity. In the second section of that cover letter, you want to cover maybe 2 or 3 of your experiences from your resume a little bit more in depth, making sure that you show why they're relevant to the opportunity that you are applying for, and how they make you a strong candidate for that opportunity. After you discuss your experiences in a little more depth, you want to show your knowledge of the organization. So if I give the example of ASU, we're all about innovation, right? Number 1 in innovation, our charter, we're passionate about access and inclusion. So those might be things that I would want to mention in the cover letter to show that I'm also passionate about those things. I'm also working towards furthering innovation and access and inclusion, to show that I'm a good fit, not just for the opportunity, but for the organization as a whole. So this is really your chance to add a few sentences about what you know about that company or organization and why you're a good fit, aligning with them too, their mission and so forth. And then you want to close out your cover letter by restating your contact information. Express gratitude. Thank you for reviewing these materials. I look forward to hearing from you. And then restate your phone number and an email address you can be reached at. That is a very quick overview of cover letters. We do have a cover letter handout on our website. If you go to career.asu.edu, under career resources, you'll see a section for handouts, and we actually have a cover letter sample there that you can review. That'll help you in that as well. Good question.
Wonderful, thank you. So it looks like those are all of the questions that we've received so far, but we still do have some time left. So Participants, if there's anything else that you want to know about job searching in the US, please do use the chat function. We're happy to answer your questions. All right, well, if there's no other questions for us, we'll go ahead and wrap up this session. I want to thank you everyone again for joining. We're so glad that you were here, and a link to the recording of this presentation will be sent to you early next week, so you can keep an eye out for that. Again, please do feel free to sign up for any of the other sessions offered as part of our International Student Career Development Summer Series. We have sessions today, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. And then we'll be offering this entire series 2 more times throughout the summer. So don't worry if there's a session that you missed. We will offer this 2 more times. Otherwise, thank you, and we are hoping that you have a great rest of your day.